Hey everybody, it's me, John Lorden, here with a new episode of BrainScratch Searchlight. And before we get into this one, I first just want to tell you guys how much I appreciate you watching these profiles, sharing them with people. I am looking forward to more of these cases getting solved, and I'm really looking forward to hearing that one of you out there is the missing piece that's able to get this information into the right hands. Before we start on this case, I also want to give a huge thank you to Mark, who did research on this case and sent it to me. Thank you so much, Mark. You did a really good job, and this is one of those cases where there was some media. It's starting to dry up quite a bit, so I've also gone through and kind of redone research and added it with Mark's. So know that in the description box below, you're going to find practically every link that you could find related to this case. If you do find any other links that are related to it, please be sure to add them in the comment box. And if I get to those, I will also add them into the description box, because I want to make kind of a good centralized area where all the links of information for this case are. And of course, we're going to go over all of the points here, which is a little bit tough because there are some reports of this story where the facts might be fudged a little or not quite accurate. And then there's other reports that seem like they're a little more trustworthy. We're going to go through that information here and try to clear this up. But this is the case of Benjamin Lloyd Coffey, and we're going to start at the Charley Project. And you guys know that I'm a very big fan of the Charley Project. I really appreciate their work and how they try to pull this information together. Although you'll see their profile on this is extremely short. It's very brief, but we will dive into more details and try to pull more facts out from other sources as we go along. So let's start with the Charley Project. Benjamin Lloyd Coffey, missing since December 31st, 2012 from Richmond, Virginia. He's classified as endangered missing, 27 years old, 5'6", 150 pounds, Caucasian male, brown hair, hazel eyes. Coffey has the words Coheed Cambria tattooed on his arm. Now, right off the bat, first time I saw that, I also thought, do they mean Coheed and Cambria, which is a band? And some information we're going to find out later will give us even more clarification, I believe. It's hard to know which source to believe, but I don't know if it literally says Coheed and Cambria or if it's a symbol from Coheed and Cambria, but we'll get into more details on that. Clothing, jewelry description: a tan coat, blue jeans, and brown leather boots. Coffey was last seen on December 31st, 2012. At 5:15 p.m., he called a friend and said he was in Richmond, Virginia and was going home. He has never been heard from again. The next day, Coffey's van was found abandoned on Hobbs Hole Drive next to the Holiday Inn Express Hotel in Tappahannock, Virginia. A photo of the van is posted below. You can see it down here. The window was rolled down and Coffey's dog was inside the vehicle, along with some food and water and Coffey's cellular phone. Although Coffey didn't have a permanent address at the time of his disappearance and may have been living out of his van, he frequented Gloucester County and Middlesex County and owned a sailboat moored in Deltaville, Virginia. His case remains unsolved. As you can see, pretty thin profile, but we're going to see if we can fill in some more information in terms of timeline and conditions that were found once they found his van. Investigating agency, they have the Tappahannock Police Department or the Virginia State Police. I'm including all of that information down below. And it's also worth noting there is no NamUs profile on this case. I don't think I have quite enough information to enter one myself. However, if his father happens to see this, I do think there is some benefit to you possibly going to NamUs and entering this information and creating a profile for him. There's a lot of people that just scan NamUs and try to match those people up against John Doe's. If he's not in that system, no one's going to be able to link him in that way. And I'm not certain why, but I have contacted police officials before, and they just have not been aware of the NamUs database, and it is supposedly a national missing persons database. So I don't know why they're not trained to enter that automatically, but if there's any of his family or friends that see this, please try to nudge maybe his father in particular, and see if they could get him in the NamUs database. Jumping over to WTVR.com, who is a CBS affiliate, Channel 6, and actually did some really good coverage on this case. Tappahannock Police spotted his van on New Year's Day, but thought someone had left it there temporarily since it showed no signs of damage. After another search of the vehicle later in the day on January 1st, officers discovered there was a dog alive inside the vehicle with food and water. When they returned to check on the dog again on January 3rd, they took the dog to an animal shelter in the area. Now, I know several of you are saying, what, they left the dog in there for 2 days? I believe when they first found the van, they thought that someone, maybe it had broken down at the side of the road, someone was going to get something for it, maybe they would be back soon. I think it might be more reasonable if they would have checked on it the next day, but they did indeed check on it 2 days later. From what I understand, the dog's name is Clue. He was initially taken to an animal shelter in the area, but since has been returned to the Coffey family, so he is no longer in the shelter. Coffey's father says Ben would not leave his dog alone for any reason because he is so attached to his pet. After running the registration on the van, Richmond police came to Terry Coffey's home, and the family then filed a missing persons report. Terry is his father, who happens to be the CEO of, I believe, a urology clinic in Richmond. Tappahannock police investigators say they then called in state police helicopters and police dogs to search the area near where Ben Coffey's van was found. A bloodhound traced his scent to a swamp, and they lost the scent, says his father, Terry Coffey. Now, I believe that all occurred on the 4th of January, 2013. Unfortunately, that is over 3 days after he went missing. But it is curious to see that the dog detected some scent of his into the swamp, but they couldn't find anything further from there. Terry says his son is a nice man, but is very quiet. Ben has been living in the Gloucester area for some time and even has 2 sailboats that he docks near there. On Friday, Terry and his son-in-law went down to where Ben docks his boat to see if they were still docked there. They found both boats. Tappahannock police say it is believed that Ben Coffey is not suicidal and poses no dangers to others. We have a little clip of his father speaking here, once again to CBS 6.
You don't leave your van on the side of the road, somewhat in a ditch, and disappear.
Obviously very concerned about how the vehicle was found, which I have to agree with, and in particular, leaving a dog in there for days doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It is interesting he had food and water for the dog in there, but if you care about an animal like that, I don't think that that's how you leave them necessarily, especially for days on end. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Moving on to Richmond.com, we're going to see if we can get some more insight into what's going on here. Coffey's van had nearly run out of gas, and investigators believe it may have broken down. The vehicle had only a small amount of fuel. From all appearances, it was determined that someone had left the vehicle temporarily and was going to return. Ashworth said. He is the Tappahannock Police Chief, James G. Ashworth, Jr. The van was checked by police January 1st near the Holiday Inn Express, and it was determined later that Coffey was unaccounted for and was presumed missing. A dog in the car had been left alone with food and water, and with a window rolled down, allowing the pet's escape. Coffey is a son of Terry Coffey, CEO of Richmond-based Virginia Urology. Ben Coffey is not wanted for any crime and is not considered a dangerous person, either to himself or others, the chief said. He is not known to have possessed a weapon. He may have been living out of the van, the chief said, but also lived aboard a sailboat in Deltaville. He was in the Richmond area January 1st. We also get a little more detail down here. Inside the van were Coffey's dog, his keys, cell phone, and some cash. So it sounds like he's leaving behind some very important things. His keys are actually in the ignition. There is cash also found in the van, as well as his dog and his cell phone. This really doesn't sound to me like he has left of his own accord. It sounds like something bad might have happened to Ben here. But let's keep looking. Also worth mentioning, there was a lot of misinformation that kind of came out about this case. For example, here's an article from WTVR, Virginia man missing since Christmas Day. I've seen several sources that say he was seen and spoke to people on New Year's Eve, so we know that that is certainly not the case. We also have a follow-up that this same news channel, Channel 3, did in December of 2015, and they largely go over kind of the light points of the description of the story again, but the only additional information we get here is the Virginia State Police Bureau has been investigating the case and suspects foul play. I did see some other mention that his father also thinks that there is some foul play involved here, and I have to say it kind of seems likely. As a matter of fact, let's take a look at a map and see if we can make any sense of the traveling that happened around this. So we know he is supposedly at a party in Richmond early in the day on New Year's Eve, decides to leave that party somewhere between 5 and 6, places a phone call to one of his friends, says that he's heading out of Richmond, he wants to go home. His father states that he actually lives in the Ware Neck area, which is pretty much a straight east shot, maybe a little southeast of Richmond. And his boat, at least one of them, is supposedly docked in Deltaville, which you can see is almost directly east of Richmond. The van is found over 50 miles north, and this is where that Holiday Inn Express is. So it certainly doesn't make sense that if he's trying to head home, why is that van going to head up here? And then once you consider that he is also running low on fuel at that point, personally, I don't think that he is driving the van. I think that possibly someone is using it to either get away or to maybe hide evidence of some kind. Maybe that's why the scent dogs hit on something in the swamp. Maybe the guy had some clothing of his that he was disposing of or something along those lines. But I have a very strong suspicion that that van was not driven by Ben to that location. Ben's father says he is not aware of any friends that Ben would have in that area. The Gazette-Journal also did some very good coverage on this case, and pretty early on. This is actually posted on January 9th, 2013. Coffey's father, Terry Coffey of Richmond, said his son had rented a cottage on the North River for several months and was helping an acquaintance renovate a Gloucester property and take care of some animals. He said his son had apparently stopped renting the cottage about a month ago and was living with the acquaintance. Coffey said his son was at the family's Richmond residence Christmas Eve when they enjoyed a big dinner and opened gifts. He said he last saw his son the next morning when the younger Coffey left early, saying he needed to get back to take care of the animals. He was in a good mood, he enjoyed his Christmas presents, and was very happy, Coffey said. The last known person to have talked with Ben Coffey was a childhood friend with whom he spoke around 5:15 p.m. on New Year's Eve. He told the friend he was in Richmond and was headed home. So once again, just supporting the timeline, particularly around New Year's Eve, but also giving us a little more insight into the last time his family at least saw him. It appears that he was in a good mood. I know when we look into these cases, we sometimes have to consider, is this someone that would harm themselves in some way? At least from the dialogue his father has given to the media, I cannot find any hint of that whatsoever. When this story first kicked around, you'll find a lot of articles early on that are suggesting that he was living out of his van. Some police reports say that they found a lot of personal items in the van, which if he had left the cottage, as this states, he rented a cottage but left it a month earlier, it is possible that he loaded up a lot of personal items in the van, and if he was living with someone else, maybe he didn't unload all of those into the person's house. So it kind of makes sense to me that those items might be in there. Could he be distraught? Is there a reason why he stopped renting that cottage? Was he having some type of financial trouble or something like that? There's a few considerations here that I have to give it. First of all, this is a guy that has 2 boats. Boats typically are not free to dock. You usually have to pay slip fees for them to stay where they're at. This is a 27-year-old that is the son of a CEO, a seemingly successful man. I don't know that money was really a problem for Ben in particular. Of course, we don't know interpersonal family dynamics. I don't know if his father ever cut him off at some point or something like that. But his father seems to speak very fondly of his son. Apparently, Ben did work renovating boats, helping people renovate properties, kind of doing what seems like odds and end things. I'm not sure if he really had found his true calling yet, but he certainly loved boats and loved sailing. So I don't think, at least from the information I've reviewed, it doesn't seem like he was having any type of money trouble that could lead him to harm himself. At dailypress.com, we get a little bit of an update. This is a few years after he disappeared. The family announced this week that they are offering a $10,000 reward for information leading to his whereabouts. And here we get a very interesting piece of information. Tattooed on his right arm is, quote, the Keywork logo, used by the American progressive rock band Coheed and Cambria, police said. So if this information is indeed accurate, he does not have a tattoo that says Coheed and Cambria. He actually has a tattoo with this logo that is used by Coheed and Cambria. So that is a very big difference. And once again, one of the things that really challenges me when I look into this case and you find such bad discrepancies between the actual facts of the case and what's being reported out there. Now, honestly, I don't know if this fact is correct or if the tattoo did say Coheed and Cambria, but somehow there's some misinformation getting out there. Once again, I think it would be very good. This is where the NamUs database can really help, because if a family member goes there, they can be very clear with what's happening. There are caseworkers that are assigned to those specific records. So if something is incorrect, they can contact the caseworker directly and say, no, I know for a fact it did not say Coheed and Cambria, it was this logo. But unfortunately, without having that good source of truth data entry, I'm having to speculate with the rest of you. So he has either a Coheed and Cambria tattoo or this logo on his arm. Also, just a little bit of a personal note. It says that he would have celebrated his 30th birthday on November 30th. This article is actually from 2015, so he would be coming up on his 31st birthday now. It's just another way where these things sometimes get personal for me. That's actually my birthday. And when I research these cases and I bump into little factoids where the person's lifestyle lines up with me, or if there's a band that we like that is similar, it really kind of nudges me and reminds me that these are real lives we're talking about. These are real people, and they deserve to be found. Their families really deserve to know what's going on with this person. Did he leave of his own accord? Maybe. But still, even in that case, I think it would be beneficial if a message got back to his family. And police will sometimes do this. When they do occasionally track down people that have left of their own accord, they basically do this kind of safety check where they find out the person's okay, and they will communicate back to the family, not details necessarily about where the person is, but they will communicate to the family, hey, we've touched base with the person. They are indeed fine, but they don't want to be found at this point. So that is certainly a possibility I think we should consider in this case. But, with the van being found in the way that it was found, with his dog being left there, I'm not sure how strong of a possibility that is. I did also find this Gloucester County-VA.com blog site, which really kind of talks more about their feelings. It does include some information from one of the media stories that covered it, but it's a bit of the author kind of theorizing on where he could have been or what he could have been doing. Like I said, I'm trying to make this a very comprehensive list of all the links pertaining to this case, so I'm going to include this one, but I don't know how much value some of you brain scratchers out there will find in it. We have another update from Richmond.com where it is very clear that the Virginia State Police are seeking the public's help in searching for Benjamin Coffey. And we have two Facebook entries that are essentially Find Ben Coffey pages. And I find it really interesting that this one notes down here that surveillance video shows a pickup truck picking up the person driving the van, which does not appear to be Ben. Now, I can find no other notations about that whatsoever. If we take that at face value, my suggestion that something bad might have happened to him, that someone else probably drove that van to that location, seems to make sense. Even the thought that the van was running out of gas might seem like someone is trying to hide the van or get it away from a location where something bad happened. I personally, if something like that did happen, I don't think that they're going to find Ben anywhere near where that van was found. Maybe on the path that the van would have taken, either from Ben's hometown to that location or possibly from Richmond to that location. Maybe something along those lines, but I don't believe that they're going to find him near where the van was. Of course, that is purely just a personal feeling of mine, just based on the information as we reviewed it here. There's also a page, Help Us Find Ben Coffey. This seems to be the Facebook page by the family, seems to be kind of the more official one. So I'm really not sure about the first one, about the information, how strong it is there, if that surveillance video really exists or not. I haven't bumped into any other notation about it anywhere else except for on that page. So that's it, Brain Scratchers. That is all the information that is out there about this case. There are many theories we could go into here. Was he potentially doing something that wasn't legal? Did he see something that wasn't legal and get put into a bad situation? There's all kinds of different ways that my brain kind of runs with this. And Mark also did a very good job of researching and theorizing about some other possibilities around this. But what it really comes down to for me is the van. How did it get there? Who took it there? If they happen to have footage of the person that drove it there, possibly releasing that publicly might help. But as a basic starting point, number one, once again, just me appealing to the family, if any of you are seeing this, please get a NamUs database entry started on this. Outside of that, Mark, the person that researched this, is somewhat local to the area. He has driven around that area and he hasn't noticed any missing posters. I don't know if the family has the means to do this, but if you can get signs near the area where the van was found, or potentially on the road between where he lived and where the van was found. Road signs are kind of a big thing. I know that they can be expensive. Maybe you want to even do some type of fundraising campaign to generate money for that. Posters, you know, I think there's some more things that might help shake some information out on this case. But as a first basic baseline, we need some of these facts cleared up, and I'm hoping that this video is at least raising the questions, and hopefully some family member out there will find it and take this suggestion and maybe run with it. Get that NamUs database entry started, clear up all these questions so we have a good solid understanding of what really happened around his disappearance, and then publicize it, publicize it, publicize it. Someone out there knows what happened. The key is, can we get the information to that person and then hopefully nudge or influence them, or maybe even inspire them to step forward, do the right thing, and send their information into the authorities. So if you, Brain Scratcher, watching this right now, have friends in the Virginia area, please, please, please share this with them, and let's see if we can shake something loose on this case. His family deserves to know what happened to Ben. Thank you so much for joining me on this edition of BrainScratch Searchlight. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much. Take care, stay safe, have a great day, and I'll see you on the next show on the Lord and Arts channel.